Welcome, my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much and remember blessed. Whenever you look my video, whenever you watch my video, share the video to all platforms. Share it to family and friends. Share it in your WhatsApp group so that people can get information on what is happening in the contraption called Nigeria, mainly against the Biafrans, against the Duduas, against the indigenous people in the contraption called Nigeria. I try as much as possible to set the record straight. I don't preach hate speech. I don't speak against people. I set the record straight. The only important thing I do here is to make sure that the plight of the people remains on the front burner and the world will know the true story of what is going on in the contraption called Nigeria.
Ikenga Imo Gochinyere is our guest on Jigsaw today. He is the spokesman for the opposition coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP, and also a chieftain of the opposition, People's Democratic Party, PDP. Well, larger audience is just joining us, so maybe.
Thank you so much for having me today. It has been a long time.
Yes. I will just say that you've been a little bit quiet in terms of media exposure and all of that.
And I said we wanted to wait for the transition to complete, and now we have a national chairman that is a pure Democrat. Now activities are beginning to pick up because we have confidence in the new NWC.
Now, having put in place a new national working committee now, is it safe to assume that the PDP will be able to easily solve all the other problems relating to 2023? For instance, question of zoning, where will the flag presidential candidates come from? How will you settle all the other positions and all of that? Will that be easier now that we have a new NWC in place?
No, it's not going to be easy, but because we have a leadership that is transparent, that is inspiring, we are going to believe as they guide us through that process. And the synergy between the new NWC and the Governors Forum is also encouraging. I think internally these issues will be addressed in the coming weeks and we'll move forward here.
Okay. All right. You were one of the people at the forefront of a new electoral act and all of that. We have a new electoral act. And I read your immediate reaction to that, praising the president and all of that. Did you actually mean all of that?
Yes, I commended President Mohamed Buhari from the bottom of my heart on the electoral act, even though belated, but I said very commendable. You see, all we have been saying is keep adding, keep improving. When you go, had he did the first one like 4 years ago, it would have improved and improved. So while we are witnessing challenges, we keep improving on it. So it's a patriotic action that he took to do the right thing. Because let me tell you one again, people say, oh, it has not solved our problem. No, we keep moving. He has solved part of our problem. For the first time, we have been able to define what is overvoting. When people rig election, they wait for people to finish whatever they're doing. They go and enter fake figures, and then they thumbprint. And then when there's issues of voting with accreditation, they will tell you that maybe they use incident form. That's why the accreditation documents is not accurate. You can see 10 for accreditation, then you see 1,000 for voting. But for the first time, the law has stated clearly that you are going to do overvoting with calculating with the total number of accredited voters. And where do you find the total number of accredited voters? From the BIVA. So you extract it out from there. If it is 10, the vote can never be above 10. So that is a progress. And not just only that. Electronic transmission of results is a huge advantage that we have scored here. But let me say this, that while the president was busy signing the law, politicians, especially for his party, was perfecting strategies on how to undermine the law. Why I say that we have made progress is that, one, if voting closes by, let's say, 3 to 12, depending on the time, they export the file and transmit. It goes with the total number of accredited voters and the total scores that have been scored, and you cannot change it. Yeah. If you go to section 66 and 65 of the new electoral act, it said when you get to the collection center, and then there's dispute as to what is the figure from the polling unit or the ward or whatever level, that the collection officer will go back. One, he can go back to ask for the original polling unit results. These are things that in the past, when they ambush us by midnight at the LUJ collection center, somebody will come with army and bring in 26,000 and you take it like that, they go to tribunal. No, it's no longer going to be the same. The collection officer will ask for the original result of the polling unit and then try to do 1 + 1 + 2 to be sure that what he has at this particular place is accurate. Yeah. Then the law also tells him that he can actually calculate it from the file that was exported directly from the polling. That's the transmitted result. You open your laptop and then you calculate it. that he can also go back and ask for the BVAS, that electronic transmission equipment, and extract out what is inside for him to arrive. And if he finds out that what they are saying is the actual result, is not intending what happened at the polling unit,
that means something has happened, and he
cannot accept it. So how can somebody say this is not progress? And not only that, if you go also to section 66, when he said even after all this process are ended, people keep saying, oh, once result is announced, you go to tribunal. No, it's no longer like that. Because if you go, why this is very important, you know what happens in different parts of the country during the election, where people just announce any figure and say, go to court. They now said, even after the collection officer has made the announcement, that the commission, under that section 66, can still review within 7 days that result has been announced. On the grounds,
review the announcement.
On the grounds that there was duress or undue pressure and so on and so forth, and be able to correct it. So what happened in Olu Senatorial Zone when the man was shot when Okorocha was by his side, that I'm announcing this because of my family. So under that situation, you go back and calculate again. This will solve a lot of abracadabra that used to go on during the election.
So it's not just a question of make a declaration, leave the rest to the tribunal.
And even the collection officer or the return officer under that section 66 will go to prison, I think 3 years or 4 years, if after he's aware that this is what has been extracted from the polling unit, this is the original result from and he still goes ahead based on pressure from somebody and makes a declaration that is not a reflection of what happened in the polling unit. Upon conviction, he will go in for 3 years. So any electoral officer that decides to forge, because these things are evidential now, it's no longer only in one person's hand. It has been exported electronically. Are you getting me? So it's a huge progress. But the painful aspect is that there is a challenge that has already developed with the new law, which is politicians have realized that there's nothing they can do again in terms of tampering with the election result, especially with electronic transmission, especially with electronic accreditation. No incident from it has to be fingerprint. So let's say you're going to arrest an entire village and force them to be accredited for them to vote for you. Now, what did they do? That is what happened in Imo, which is why it's so painful that not up to 48 hours that law was signed, Hope Uzodinma threw up a challenge to that law. Do you know what happened in Imo? Now they waited for accreditation to get almost around 12. And they started kidnapping INEC officials. You saw the statement by the Resident Electoral Commission. So it's not like I'm saying it because I belong to opposition. They started kidnapping them. Now collected them, went to a hotel, Sentinel Hotel also along Airport Road, and then kept them there and then forced them to open the BVAS so that they can bring out the total number of accredited voters. Because now they know they can no longer rig. If you rig without being in with the total number of accredited voters is null and void. So they now force these INEC staffs, some of them under threat of rape and so on and so forth, which you can see in the report by the Resident Electoral Commission. They now force them to say, okay, open your BVAS. Let me see the total number that is accredited. Say 30, right? So what they do, they collect the ballot box papers that have already been thumb-printed, destroy it, tear out new ballot papers, and then thumb-print them to 30. Maybe you can give one party one and then thumb-print the entire 29 to your party, put it back to the back, and then force the INEC staff to transmit. So that when you get to the collection center, it looks like it's a genuine election that has just happened.
Because after all, it's 30 votes.
Exactly. It goes through the legal process. But there is an ambush, there is a kidnap, and there is a thumbprint. And in that situation, INEC now said they can review those results. That is why he now said signing the law is one phase. Now we have seen a challenge to the law, which means that the police, the DSS, the army, the president must find a way to caution them. Because what the police did, they kept quiet. They took almost about 50 staffs of INEC, so it's not something that is hidden. Everybody saw it. So how do we solve that situation to avoid the situation whereby the lives of electoral officials will be at risk on election day, where politicians will start adopting them to force them to open the BVAS for them to extract their created number of votes and be able to thumb-print. And also to find out this fraud, I'm telling you, if an electoral officer is giving 100 ballots, right, and there is 30 that was used, so it means that when he's making a return, they're supposed to be 70.
Yes.
But to perfect this fraud that I've just told you happened in Imona, the ballot will no longer be 70 because you destroy the 30 that have been cast and tear out another 30. In that case, the ballot that they will be returning will be 60 instead of it should be 40 instead of 70. So in that case, the commission must have a way of checking that when their staffs come back from duty, what is the total number of voters having cast? What is the returning ballot you are coming back from? Anyone that is not complete, it means that this thing I've told you has happened, because for you to do this thing I'm telling you, the ballot will no longer be complete. And then there must be commitment from security agencies to ensure that this adoption of electoral officers does not repeat itself. And that's what everybody is hoping, because tomorrow is Friday. that is the last day the new electorate has given INEC to review the Ngopala election. And I heard they are working on it. But the most important is that any decision they must make, they must bear in mind that if they don't send a strong message with Ngopala, politicians are going to go back and start kidnapping the electoral officers like that happened in Imo. So you must send a statement to ensure that people do not go to that extent of tampering with the beavers, to that extent of kidnapping electoral officers and then forcing them to export a file. But like I said before, this law is an advantage because the question now is how many electoral officers are you going to kidnap? Exactly. And again, this calls for vigilance from all the political parties that you must vote and start the polling unit, policies with your cameras, follow them, use your vigilante, chase them so that they don't go about adopting electoral officers. So to me, is a progress, and the president have done noble by signing the law.
But on the part of citizens, what can we do to safeguard this kind of situation that you just mentioned now? Because it's shameful really that we campaigned for an electoral law, we campaigned for reforms for years, and now we have a law, and less than a week after, the law is being tested, and it's being
it's 48 hours. It's not even a week.
The law is being raped already.
The next day,
the law is already being raped. So what is the antidote to that? As we because we have two other elections that
like
are
I
coming
said
up
before,
shortly.
First is vigilance. Like in a place where I monitor, they call it Umekunem. When they snatched the ballot papers and the result sheet for them to do this, on their way, the youth blocked the entrance gate. There's an entrance gate with which you enter Umekunem and locked it. So because the people didn't know the terrain very well, they abandoned their vehicles and ran away. They recovered some of the material. So if everybody can be vigilant, that is one. And also, if political parties can make adequate security arrangements in town, not like people carrying guns, but mobilize your people, vote defenders to stay at the polling unit, so that when these people come, you start chasing them. So once they meet resistance, the question now, how many electoral officers are you going to kidnap before 2-3 p.m. people start transmitting their results? Because the good thing is that while you are doing this, some other areas are exported, and once they have exported, there's nothing you can do. So if there is resistance, if there's some level of vigilance by people that, no, this will not happen here, definitely it will be difficult for them to go about, picking this electoral official. Because this, you see, let me tell you this, we cannot come from 1999 and then we make such a huge progress with all these electronic devices, and then one man somewhere takes us back to the barbaric days of adopting electoral officers to force them to open the beavers and then start on printing. Some of the electoral officers has made their statement. Are you getting me? So that's why I said another way is that INEC must use Ngopala to show their readiness not to tolerate this kind of political rascality, that people don't get away with this kind of nonsense. That's why we say total cancellation and send everybody back to the polling. And again, ensure it does not happen. One, every electoral officer that goes to election, once you come back, your ballot paper must be complete. If it's not complete, you prosecute him for tampering with government property, which the law also have a provision for. So once the electoral officials know all these things, even if you force the ones that come out, they will come and say, this is what happened. Like some of them said, this is where they forced us to open our visas and trans. Because once this is done, let me tell you, if you're looking at INEC dashboard, it looks like a genuine election is going on in those polling units. But it's not a genuine election. Somebody somewhere has hijacked the man and forced, just like for somebody forcing you to open your online banking app and you make a transfer, it looks like you're the one that is making the transfer. So it's something that I even believe that President Mohamed Buhari on his own should ask what happened in Ngopala, because you can't just sign a law this evening and then the next morning your party members is alleged to have upturned it upside down.
And I'm sure if we check the Electoral Act very well, there will be punishments for this kind of...
There's a punishment, yes. There's a punishment, yes.
There's yet another challenge that I've seen to the Electoral Act, and that also has to do with politicians. The new electoral law of course talks about the need to promote internal democracy within the political parties, which is why it has specified the mode through which candidates of political parties should emerge. Do you see political parties also wholeheartedly embracing the provisions of this new law?
You see, let me say this also as a warning to all political parties. With this advancement in technology, when you go about and keep handpicking candidates because somebody likes them or they work with somebody or they're somebody's PA, there's no way you can rig the election to be difficult. So if the other party feels a strong candidate and there's electronic transmission from the polling unit, if you are waiting for your talks for LUGA to go and put in a figure, it is no longer going to work. Even when you go and put it, it will be reviewed and reversed. So therefore, it calls for political parties to be committed in the process that leads to them choosing their candidate, or else you're going to suffer their badly for that particular action. And again, I it's very painful that people go about campaign, reach out to people, and one individual sees one place and say, I will handpick somebody. To me, it is insulting in this time and age. Are you getting me? It's not the right. And again, the Electoral Act has a provision. If the political parties in the process they adopt in choosing their candidate does not conform with the provisions of the law, and somebody goes to court and challenges, and the court voids that process, that political party will not be on the ballot. So if political parties think it's like the old days, go and do abracadabra primary, go and dash your ticket to your girlfriend or to your P or whatever, and somebody goes to court, you will not be on that ballot. That is what the new law have said. So therefore, you must conduct your primaries. And INEC also must insist that the laws are full. And again, it's good that the guideline that was released, which is also the new guideline, it requires that political parties should send the list of electoral officials that will do the primary. I think 7 days. That was used in Anambra. They have started using it already. 7 days to the date of election. They must publish the venue. These are things that will help this internal democracy you're talking about. People wait until Friday. They don't even know the venue of the primary. But this new guideline is not saying that you must place advert in national papers showing that this is the venue where that primary is going to hold 7 days to the time. And if you want to change it, you must give INEC 3 days to the time before you change it. And also the people that will conduct that primary, you're going to make them write them and send to INEC. So not tomorrow you go and bring somebody to us say he has done the primary. And then he said the delegate list that will be used, because that's another place that lists all.
That's if we are using indirect primaries.
Up to 2 hours to primary.
Does he drawing up the list?
At the list. So now INEC in the new guideline is now saying you must send the list of delegates, I think 14 days or 7 days to the commission. All of them. This started with Anambra. You must send it to the commission so they will see. And every aspirant who wants to reach out to those delegates can apply and be able to know who is the delegate. Even if you don't agree, you can start your appeal and your agitation. Maybe you have somebody that is not supposed to be a delegate that is on the delegate. So all this improvement will help political parties to do the right thing. Because if you leave political parties on their own, most of them will not do the right thing.
They like to operate without law.
Yes, exactly.
If you allow them, they will rather operate without laws.
So these are developments that happen. And also, I saw that when you were talking about the issues of independence candidacy that seems to have sailed in both chambers.
Yes, we'll talk about independent candidates now, just after this one. This one I want to put up now is whether, because part of the statement you released when President Buhari signed the Electoral Act is that 2023 is an opportunity for the opposition to take over. And I'm just wondering whether your party too has not seen challenges in all of these new requirements. For instance, if you are going to be using a direct method to choose your candidates, it imposes a lot of responsibilities on you. You have to have a credible register of members. That's a challenge to your party. Even if you are using the indirect system, there's a challenge there because of the elaborate process that the new law has also stated. Now, your expression of optimism, there is an opportunity for your party. But then you added a caveat to it. The caveat is actually what I'd like you to speak to, which is that if they field popular candidates. Now, fielding popular candidates mean complying with the laws and all of that.
Yes, and that's why I start by saying, why the opposition is excited is because we are inspired by the body language of our new national chairman, Senator Yochai, who has said clearly that we are going to abide by the provisions of the party constitution, the party guidelines, and the Electoral Act, and we're going to return PDP back to the winning ways of 1999. And if we go by those commitments, you know how those things were done in 1999. Popular candidates emerged, due process was followed. People who want to run an election reach out to party members, and not for 2 or 3 individuals to sit one place, that even after primary, people's name kept on changing. So whereby even few hours of submission, in INEC names keeps on changing left, right, and center. And what INEC has also done on the issue of signing the list of nominated candidates, which is the chairman and the secretary. Now, 1 or 2 individuals cannot just go and change the list of somebody who has won, unless the chairman will now connive with the secretary or the secretary with the chairman, which I think will not happen in this case. And like I said before, every of these actions you don't follow have consequences. If you conduct a primary election that did not follow the provisions of the law, you don't have a valid 3-man ad hoc delegate Congress, you do not have the venue and all those things published as required by the new regulations and guidelines, and what any of your party member goes to court, the new law recognizes the fact that you have breached the provisions of the law, and then you are not going to be on the ballot. And that is a huge price for a political party to pay not to be on the ballot. So, and I don't think the opposition, with the opportunities they have now, would try to drag itself into those internal, political problems that can lead them to not having a stable primary and a stable outcome. And like I said before, the excitement is that with a level playing field, the opposition always have an advantage, because people always want change, wants better way of doing things. Like, as you know, when you are coming here, you see what's happening in the fuel stations. This is a problem that the president said he has solved like 2-3 years ago. Now it's obvious that nothing has happened. You saw the situation in security, you saw the situation in education, you saw the situation in revenue that is dropping, and high borrowing plans every now and then. You saw weakening of democratic institutions. Now, all these things, when you put them together, I believe that the people may want a better option. And if that is the case, with a level playing field, with electronic transmission of results, with electronic accreditation, and then I think opposition has an opportunity to reclaim power. That's why I express that excitement. But I put that caveat that if the right thing is not done on the issue of zoning, on the issue of whether we are throwing it open, on the issue of whether we are zoning it, on the issue of venue of our primary, on the issue of our 3-man ad hoc delegate, who are the national delegate, so on and so forth, if we don't put these things in order, then we are going to have a problem that can lead to litigations, and those litigations can even deny us the chance, God forbid, of being on the ballot. So it calls for more commitment and more sacrifice from party members. The horizon is so bright for the opposition if internal democracy can be protected and defended, as our national chairman Yochayi has assured us.
On the part of INEC, are you satisfied with what you are seeing coming from INEC so far? Because a few hours after the president signed the Electoral Act, INEC swung into action, met and quickly reviewed his earlier plans for 2023, and it has rolled out the guidelines for 2023. If primaries are held by, I think, from April or so. Yes. It's a long period allowed to settle whatever issues may arise
litigations from that. And I used to in the past do a kind of blanket criticism of INEC because of we had issues with them during the battle of 2019. But now I've started to have a second thought on some of the issues. I look at processes. Now, one of the processes that even before the president signed the Electoral Act, the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakub, has started tinkering with the idea of electronic transmission of results, electronic accreditation. Yeah. So even the big salute should even go to him that engineered that process.
More like forcing the hand
of the government, the lawmakers, and the president. INEC stood their ground. Unlike before, where INEC used to be 100% what the government wants. That electronic transmission, that electronic accreditation, they tried it in different states in the country before this law was now signed to make it a legitimate instrument. So with that commitment shown by the Electoral Commission led by Professor Mahmoud, I will now say, okay, we are watching. Let's see how you are now going to implement the larger, laws that have been given to you, especially how you deal with people who want to subvert that process. Because if we don't address the Imo issue, it's very important. Then other people have had what happened in Imo. They go back and start adopting your staffs, and it puts the lives of your staff in danger. So you have to review, and I'm happy that the resident electoral commissioner, came out boldly to say what happened here is unheard of. It never happened before. And I also been told that he has also done his report and sent to the relevant organization. So I strongly believe that before Friday, which is the last day provided by the new law, the commission must explain to Nigerians what is their decision, whether they are invoking their powers under Section 66 of the new Electoral Act to cancel the Ngokpal election and other area round, or whether they are doing anything. But the point is that whatever they want to do, they have 7 days to take that decision, which expires tomorrow being Friday. And also they have 14 days to issue certificate of return, assuming they want to go ahead with what has been done. So all these things, I thank God, have timeline. So Nigerians are watching to see what INEC will do to address this.
That Ngokpala is a state constituency.
It's just a state house of, it's just a by-election. Very 193 polling unit. And you see, let me say this with all due respect, because I like being straight. You see, I'm beginning to find a link between the role played by the police with what happened in Supreme Court, where the mandate of Yedo was upturned and given to somebody who came forward. Let me explain to you. If you remember, there's a police officer who testified to support the result of the 388 polling unit, the highest ever forgery in our electoral process.
He said he was in charge of police operations for the election.
Good. Now, that same police officer is the commissioner of police in Imo. So, could it be that he has continued to carry on what they did last time? So that's why police should restore its integrity. In the first place, for him having testified on that result that is contentious, why post him as the commissioner of police to the same man he testified in that same issue that is still dragging our Supreme Court down? So it pains my heart that seeing him there, and then what happened in Gokpala happened, and people were calling for help. These electoral officials were not rescued until these things were done and transmitted. It's very bad, and I think that going forward, the president, apart from signing this law, and then the INEC chairman must sit down with security agencies. How do you control the security agents, especially the police and the DSS, who may want to allow, whether they are in opposition or ruling government? It doesn't matter. You can't continue debasing our institutions. Are you getting me? Turning our police, some of our police officers to talk, who follows people who are known as criminals down there in Imo to be carrying and adopting a letter. What kind of nonsense is that? So I think at this age, we should have grown past this kind of nonsense, and I want the president to do everything possible to use that to find out how to protect the law, or else signing this law will amount to nothing if what happened in Ngokpala is not corrected, and the people who were involved, including security, because Ngokpala would not have gone bad if security agencies have stood their ground. No electoral officer would have been taken. Everybody saw when they were sharing message of the location of the hotel around Airport Road. You would have stormed the place. You would have rescued those people who were there. Even the pictures, some of the courageous electoral officers were able to smuggle out pictures. The location was clear, but nothing ever happened until this thing happened. So it means there is a kind of conspiracy to allow this happen, and it is not good at all for an electoral system.
Well, like you said, INEC for now is beginning to assert its position, and is actually sending that signal that it can't be relied upon. So let's see how INEC treats the Ngokpala issue. Let's move on. The one you raised much earlier on has to do with the independent candidacy. Now that's a fallout from the constitutional amendment process that followed after the signing of the Electoral Act by the president. Independent candidacy in a political order where you have as many as 18 registered political parties, isn't that kind of superfluous? And again, when you look, when you see the requirement for you to be an independent candidate, would you rather not go and pick the ticket of a political party instead of wanting to subject yourself to that rigor?
I think there's nothing wrong in that. Why do I say that? There's some individuals that their name are more popular than political parties in some area even. So telling them to even go into a political party, most times their name is even more popular than those political parties.
But you just drag everybody into the field. Because for you to be an independent candidate, there has to be something like an election before election.
Yes, and the nominators and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
That's why I said if you have the capacity.
So it's like election
for
before
instance,
election.
If somebody like Abiola is alive today and he wants to run as an independent candidate, I guess he has the capacity to be able to fulfill those procedures. So let's leave it there in case tomorrow. Remember, these political parties are being deregistered going by the amendment to the constitution earlier. You have 18 today. What if tomorrow 7 or 8 or 10 doesn't win any legislative seat, you deregister? Maybe at the end of the day, we may end up having 2. So if there's a clause like independent candidate, then people, when you have 2 or 3 political parties and they don't have ticket and they are strong, can fulfill those criteria and they can run as an independent candidate. The most important is that opening the political space and giving people options is very critical to deepening democracy. The options should be so wide. And I think the issue of people, wanting more political parties, the issue of independent candidacy have also solved part of those issues. So that if you think you can do it, if you think the people love you, if you think you have the capacity to fulfill the criteria, then you can run as an independent candidate. But the key thing here is that let the electoral process be so opened, let there be so much participation, so that the best at the end of the day can come out, so that people will know that there's a lot of option. And I can tell you, if with the rate we are going now, we have been moving like this since 1960, I guess Nigeria would have been better. So now we have brought this new, this constitution amendment, this electoral amendment. The next government that will come in 2023, 2024, will also talk. Yes, we'll talk another issue. How do we correct the loophole, like what happened in Ngokpala? How do we strengthen it and so on and so on? We move to electronic voting, because if we go to electronic voting now, Ngokpala issue will not arise again, because once you print, it goes away. so nobody's going to carry anything again. So we keep moving. I think we should see everything from the level of progress on this particular. That's why I don't want to play politics with it. It is progress, and everybody can see it is progress. Then next time another person is going to do his own, and things is going to get better for our people. So that's why the Constitution Amendment and the Electoral Act is coming at a time that is so beautiful. So no matter whatever it is, we should accept it, collect it, and then ask for more. Just like the president signed and said he wants 84 to be amended. Just sign, continue to advance whatever you believe or whatever you want. And with the amendments in the Constitution, both even the devolution of power, even though it is not holistic the way people have wanted, but at least we're beginning to listen to the modern music. We're beginning to listen to modern democratic way of doing things. Now we're going to have railway go into the concurrent list. We're going to have airports. Now we're going to go have electricity generation. Electricity generation. There are some states
and prisons
that have the resources. They have the resources to generate electricity in rural areas and then sell to those people. These are things that if we continue to do like that's how modern democracies develop. So everybody should welcome it, even though it's not yet perfect. I get it. And you can see when the issue of life pension or something for parliamentarian came up, how they voted. It's also progress because they are listening to the yearnings or the people who doesn't want, the number of former parliamentarians we have in the country. So in the next 50 years, we're going to have almost 1,000 people.
Pensioners
exactly.
From the National Assembly
alone. So these things are progress. But I have a problem, when you go to Section 6 of the Constitution that, said, okay, 2/3, which is 72 senators, 240 rep members to pass. Yeah, we are going very well right now. Then where I have a problem with the gains we have recorded with the Constitution Amendment, and I must commend the National Assembly for what they are doing, but I have a big fear. That big fear is still under that Section 6 of the Constitution, where you now need 2/3 of the State House of Assembly, and you require 24 states. Now, we have seen in the past a group of young men, because they are dancing what I call politically on the table of the governor. When you say, collect legislative autonomy for your own good, you say, I don't want it, because you want to be loyal to one individual who will still leave office. So I hope that Nigerian people should realize that as we are celebrating this little progress that we have recorded, that this thing have a big challenge, which is when it goes to the state House of Assemblies, where these governors have a strong control on these guys who are in the state legislature, that they might throw away those critical, especially also local government autonomy. It's not the first time he's going through this process. Whether the administrative autonomy that have been granted and the financial autonomy. Now, most governors are feeding on the local government money. Now, they're going to, and even, let me even say that some lawmakers in some states, there are some states to go, the governors are allowing the local government to pay some lawmakers 1 million, 2 million a month. So they will not tell them now, if we give these people full autonomy, this business will not continue. But you remember when we were growing up, and I think it's the same maybe when you were growing up, when we used to go to the local government headquarters for match pass, for cooking competition, you have the health centers. I was born in a health center. These things were working very well. Until the crop of governors that came in 2007 or 2000,
completely emasculated
it and then took it away and are giving them money to pay salary. You see, I am praying that our state lawmakers, for once, should do something that their own children will benefit from. So we can restore governance back to the rural area. So that if money is given to a local government and paid into the account, and the local government chairman decides to pull it out and dash to a governor, he'll be the one that will go to jail. And this idea of state joint allocation or whatever they do, where if the state is supposed to be putting inside, but now they're even taking inside without putting inside. So I think that what the National Assembly have done is a huge progress, but then sustaining it, going by the provision of Section 6 of the Constitution, it's going to be at the doorstep of the state lawmakers. And I want civil society group, the media, to continue to put these lawmakers, keep to put pressure on them, so that for once they will do the right thing. The state judiciary will have full autonomy. You see the way some governors will be talking on TV, I give my chief judge 100 million, I give my state judiciary 200 million, as if to say it is his money he's giving them. Now, how can we get good dispensation of justice when the government is just giving and not giving and all those to the CJ? But when the CJ have full autonomy, definitely the CJ will be able to do the right thing for the state. So to me, it's more of everything is more of progress that we are making.
I'm sure one area that you also have some comment has to do with the fact that 4 bills that had to do with our women were put up and all fulfilled, including the one that was aimed at creating special seats for them in Parliament. Because if you listen to the prologue to this program, there's a reason behind that bill, which is that Nigeria has become the poorest country in the West African sub-region as far as women representation in parliament is concerned. We are the poorest. And then in the African continent, we are the third poorest. This law also had a time limit to it, just 16 years. If it had stayed through for 4 election cycles, let this be in place. So that within that period, we'll see how far our women will be able to pull their weight in terms of contesting for those. But the parliament.
Yeah, that one pained me, because if it had been to give them a blanket life seat, I would have objected. Yeah. But when I saw the clause that this is, time,
just for 16 years.
16 years.
Yes.
Then by that time, more women would have gotten involved in the political process. Then you remove the law and then let them compete.
And the additional seat doesn't affect the present seat that you have.
So, and there are some countries that also do that. So I don't know why they decided to throw, but I think they should have allowed the women to have. The women have been in the forefront of this agitation. And it's not the fault of women that they cannot compete with them, because the political process, especially the intra-party, process, have been so much bastardized, so much so much money, so much killing. How do you expect a woman to join that kind of gangster? Have even men have even provided a level playing ground? Women may not even be asking for equal seat, because they can campaign and people can vote. Imagine when women go to primary, they will storm there with talks, shoot gun, the woman will run away. So now this law would have brought out a lot of women to get involved in the process, and no extra discomfort to what is in the presently in place. And in 16 years time, we'll remove the law and see how far we have gone. By that time, our electoral process and the electronic way of doing things would have improved and consolidated, and then women can run like women run all over the world to be president and they will indeed win. The way it is structured today does not give women a level playing game, because the men have hijacked the process. They will tell women go and compete. They say they're giving them form free of charge. After you finish giving a woman PDP or APC form free of charge, are you going to give her the talks to enter the convention venue? Are you going to get her to go to Wadata or AP secretary to be struggling to defend that? So the way it is structured, women are suffering a lot. That's why I felt allowing them 16 years to have a seat, and then later, by that time, our institutions would have become very strong, and then they can compete. I think it was not too much, to ask. I don't know why they did that.
What do you think? Do you think all hopes is lost on?
No, I think the women group, they should continue to advocate. They should, after the president is sending a bill to amend the 84 he doesn't like. So also they can reintroduce that. They have not finished the process to find a way to give women a sense of belonging. Even though I saw the one on the ministerial something that there must be equal representation for the women. I think there's a line that was mentioned that gender stuff. So that is also good, but it's not that's not the one that requires the president to send list of ministers or governors, commissioners within 30 days after being sworn in, and which is also a progress in terms of efficiency of governance. You have governors who have gone politically rogue that a year in office, a governor that took out of office will not have commissioners. He will be running with PAMSEC and then be doing everything with special advisors, when the constitution said you must have commissioners. And now, with this law now, this amendment to the constitution, it becomes a constitutional thing that 30 days after you have taken oath of office, you must send the list of your commissioners or the list of your ministers to the National Assembly or to the state legislature for them to be able to affirm. These things are progress. And I strongly believe that, if we continue on this trajectory, in the years ahead, the country will improve. Because if we don't do the right thing, we are leaving behind a country that is not safe for our children. And then whatever we can do, we should look beyond party line. Let's do it for the good of the country.
I'm not aware of any state in Nigeria, of the 36 states we have, where women don't constitute more than 50% of the voting population.
Even when you come to polling units.
Exactly. And yet there are 15 states in Nigeria of today where you don't have a single woman in the State House of Assembly. 15 states like that in Nigeria.
Yeah, the reason is very simple, like I said before. The bastardization of that electoral process, monetization, most women don't have the money to start paying for votes. In Ngongpala, some parties were paying 1 million per polling unit. So how is women going to get money to compete in that kind of environment? Then the political primary process is also bastardized. So it's difficult for women to compete and get what is due to them, because the men, has basically hijacked the process, without following due process. If the laws are strengthened, if the laws are consolidated and very strong, that's why I agreed with the people that say give them 16 years for them to have a seat. And after 16 years, by that time our laws would have been strengthened. Then they can go through electronic voting. A woman can win, money or no money. Yes,
that's true. We have to leave it here. Thank you so much, Ikenga. Ikenga Imo Gochire is the spokesman for the opposition Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP. Not also to forget that he's a staunch member of the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP. Thank you so much.
I used to add now from Idato.
Is it what?
And I used to add now from Idato. Thank you so much.
Idato is an Igbo, isn't it?
Yes, it's a
Thank you so much. Thank
yes.
you. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you so much, yes.
All right, that's Jigsaw for today. Thank you for investing your time with us. I'll see you around. My name is Benga Aruliba.
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remain blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.